My parents sent me to goat milking camp. For like these Brooklynites, a goat milking camp would be such a like cool hip thing.
Heck yes.
But for my upbringing in Dallas, Texas, it was like the uncool camp that no one wanted to send their kids to.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, it's Priya. I was asked by the New York Times to do a story looking at how we can cut down on food waste this Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is one of the more wasteful holidays of the year. While I'm very mindful of food waste, I'm certainly no expert. And so I decided to call on one of my colleagues, Dominique Drakeford. I will cook as minimal waste a Thanksgiving meal with Dominique as possible while having a really thoughtful and interesting conversation about what it means to be minimal waste. All right, let's do it.
The entire environmental crisis is a crisis about connection. Sustainability seems unattainable and inaccessible. So I just want to stress the importance of progress over perfection, meeting folks where they are and taking very intentional baby steps. That's all.
I think that's a really, really, really important. We're going to do the best job that we possibly can.
Absolutely.
All right, so I'm here at my local farmer's market. I've got my reusable bags here, and I was able to get pretty much all the produce that I need, supporting a local farm and not using any plastic. So this was great and easy, and I'm really excited to get cooking. So we've got a really delicious menu of goods. We're gonna be doing a bunch of recipes from NYT Cooking. Nick Sharma's sweet potato babinka for dessert. Von Diaz braised coconut collard greens. Yuande Komolafe's jollof rice. Sean Sherman's tepary beans with chili agave glaze. And then finally, we are doing my mom's kaddu, which is her sweet and sour butternut squash, which is a staple on our table in the fall season.
I'm very excited.
I'm really excited, really hungry already. We're going mostly plant-based.
Yes.
And I feel like that was our instinct, but I am curious why you feel like plant-based is a really great way to cut down on your food waste.
When you go plant-based, all of the scraps can be used in some way, whether it's composted, whether you create stock, whether you use the stem to regrow to make sure that you're alleviating the waste.
You don't need a big centerpiece.
You definitely
dish.
don't.
Growing up, I did not realize that my plate was lacking anything because we ate so many legumes. Eating lots of beans and lentils is a great way to eat less meat. Eating less meat is great for the environment.
And it's really filling too.
And it's really filling, and they're
exactly.
delicious. Do people even like turkey? I frankly don't love turkey. When everyone makes the same thing, our food systems get this tremendous pressure on them because they are having to over-cultivate turkey, sweet potatoes, cranberries. Cooking the food of my heritage on Thanksgiving has always been a way to talk about,
Absolutely.
to have those conversations.
Absolutely. I think it's so important for us to step away from colonial traditions as much as possible. Yeah. My little baby I grew, it was the last one.
I love that. You want to do the bell pepper and I will do the onion?
I actually keep the seeds, and you could donate the seeds to your local garden if you don't have the means to grow them yourself.
How did this sort of become an issue that was really important to you?
I want to know where my food comes from just as much as I want to know where and how to, communicate and engage with sustainable fashion.
Right.
And once you start to really learn and engage with the system, you start to realize how important food advocacy and land sovereignty is. Growing up, I didn't call it sustainability. I in theory, called it resourcefulness. The more that you learn and navigate this movement, the more you learn about how whitewashed and how exclusive and elitist the movement is. When in all actuality, Black and brown communities have been sustainable forever. And so it became really important for me to advocate for that.
My parents were so strict about food waste because my mom grew up in India and it was just not a thing to waste your food because they didn't have a lot. So they were working
out of
with
necessity.
Yeah, with what they had. And these are all things that I just grew up with but didn't realize they're sort of quote unquote sustainable. That wasn't a word we used growing up.
So composting is literally one of my favorite regenerative acts and food justice acts in life. Like I'm so excited always to compost. So I put onion and garlic scraps in here.
Okay.
That's regular compost. And then other scraps are here for worms because the worms don't like the garlic and onion. Okay. So this tray we'll use for waste, and we'll just see how much waste we accumulate for the day.
I mean, I feel like we're gonna do a pretty good job. I feel good about this.
Yes, I'm a huge advocate of progress over perfection. Do the best you can with the resources you have available and take baby steps.
What do you like to do with cans? What's your thoughts on cans?
February, March-ish, I
Uh-huh.
will start seedlings indoors for the spring.
Okay.
And I use lots of cans. Try to reduce
Right.
recycling in the first
Yes.
place and reuse and repurpose and upcycle as much as you can.
It truly looks like something I want to use in everything.
In everything.
This is a tip straight from my mother. She will put a little bit of water and swirl it around and then use it to extract the rest of the liquid. My mother does not waste a thing. Every video, she's like, you left a little spinach in the
is Mom
blender. Yeah.
critiquing? I love it though. I love it. That's so adorable.
I feel like half of my upbringing was staring at onions sweating in a pot.
Mine was watching my grandma wash collard greens.
So we're using smoked paprika and turmeric in this recipe. I've become really cognizant of buying spices from a source that you trust, direct trades or single origin, that they're sustainably farmed, that they're paying their farmers properly, that there isn't any child labor involved. And the other thing is, I love both of these containers and I reuse them all the time. That smells so good.
How much do we need?
5 fresh thyme sprigs.
Growing herbs is one of my favorite things to do of all time. I keep this on the rooftop and it smells amazing. Figure out ways to make space where you have sunlight for at least 6 hours.
There we go. So this is the only rice I could find, but in general, are you like a bulk bin rice person?
Yes. Yeah, I try to buy my grains in bulk
Okay.
as much as possible.
I had to recipe test a turkey recipe. So once I was done roasting the turkey, I literally just stuck the carcass in a pot. I let it cook for like 6 hours. I got this beautiful stock. This is a much easier alternative to a pie. You gave me a really good tip. Minimizing your food waste is minimizing the time it takes for your food to get to you.
Absolutely.
And my farmer's market had these beautiful plump sweet potatoes.
They look amazing.
I didn't even realize that we had a local community garden until I looked it up.
And farmers market food tastes so good.
Ooh, yeah.
Put the peels in this bin right here.
I'm just gonna snack on one of these to the side because I really like sweet potato skins. My mom is really anti-peeling, not only because of the waste, but because she's always felt like the skin has
is
so
the
many
healthiest,
nutrients.
yeah. Or at least that's what my mom told me.
If your mom tells you, it must be right. you
Right,
know?
exactly.
This little piece of paper will be our first bit of waste, right?
Yes.
Sad, but the reality. We can use the butter wrapper to grease our pan.
Ah,
We can get the most out of that
smart.
wrapper, which I love.
Aluminum and parchment paper, you can cook with it, put it in the oven, and reuse it. And it's something that I do quite often. I
Yeah.
rinse it off, and I do the same thing with Ziploc bags if and when I have to use a Ziploc bag.
What do you use your egg cartons for?
So egg is a great source of carbon for worm bin or compost bin.
Oh, the
And the
shells.
shells go straight in. You can put it in the worm bin or the compost bin. Such good calcium. With eggshells, you have to rinse it and heat them up for a little bit to get rid of the bacteria before you add them to compost or your plants.
Covering for the maple syrup. What do we do with this?
I have to add it to our waste.
All right. Accidentally chose recipes that cook at the same time. This is not a food waste tip, but just a general food prep tip is choosing recipes that cook at the same time in the oven is great.
In good shape.
Yeah, we've got a lot of dishes, but not too much waste.
All of my scraps are getting used to either feed my worms in my little worm farm or my compost. So easy to make. I'll probably add some egg carton from today. A lot of the little specks you see are eggshells, throwing in some of my used coffee grounds and scraps, and that feeds the worms. And they do their thing, creating the best fertilizer for all of your plants, indoors and outdoors. And the worms are happy.
All right, so now, yeah, I definitely overcooked these a little bit, but that's okay. Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that.
Man, these are real waste culprits. This is like a thing I was not aware of. Dominque has cooled, and the recipe calls to cover it with plastic wrap, but we're just gonna use a towel because that's a more sustainable choice. It works just fine. My partner and I will use like shower caps to cover.
Love it.
So this is like a Thanksgiving staple in my house. When my mom was sort of first introduced to the idea of having a Thanksgiving meal, none of the Thanksgiving foods appealed to her. Yeah. She thought about like what dishes her family makes in the fall, and this gaddu, which is like, it's basically sort of simmered, slightly mashed butternut squash, and you just make it in one pot, and I love a one-pot dish.
Yeah, one-pot dish.
It's just like these initial cuts that are so
Yeah.
annoying. Please don't include this in the video, Vaughn. Now we've got these seeds.
So I collect squash seeds. I actually grew squash this year.
Oh, okay, great. Peeling squash is a pain.
Yes, it is.
And in this recipe, it just all cooks down. Extra nutrients, as my mom says,
Yeah.
and save the peel.
Yeah, your mom has all the tricks. I'm like, okay, moms.
You figured out how to do a lot with a little bit. That's the cooking that I'm more interested in. Use one pot, or I have to use all these scraps, and that's when I'll do the best kind of cooking.
Right. And like you said, these are the type of stories and conversations that need to be amplified. Really tapping into the fact that communities of color have done so much with so little for so long.
I swear the hardest part of this recipe
Like-
is cutting the squash.
Like, can you hear the struggle as we're talking? Like,
So one thing that Dominique immediately noticed, which is a thing my family does, which we take old pill bottles and use them to store our spices. My dad always likes it because it has a little child lock. So, I mean, we cannot prove this, but he says it keeps it a little bit fresh. I used to be ashamed that my family didn't cook whatever traditional Thanksgiving food even means, but now I'm like, I love what we cook even better. Like I don't want a turkey. I'll never want a turkey for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
I love that we're cooking an indigenous recipe from Sean Sherman. We've got a Nigerian recipe from Yawande. We're gonna be doing a Puerto Rican recipe from Von Diaz. This Goan dish, the sweet potato babinka. It just, I don't know, I feel like I'm really learning a lot. How do we do a better job buying brown sugar? Because this has plastic and paper. Yeah.
I usually buy it in bulk, or I get it from Paracycle, where you can fill up your own jars.
This is the smallest bunch of cilantro I could get at the farmer's market.
And that's insane.
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
But it's a lot. I can go home and make a big batch of chutney.
Yeah.
So
Again, I'm a guac person.
here's another my mom trick. She likes to get the most out of her lime, so she does this. It's all squeeze and scrape.
Actually, my grandma would look at me crazy. You twirl it first and then cut.
Oh yeah.
Is what she
Look
taught
at that
me.
cross section.
Yes.
I love colored greens. Here's our coconut oil. This has a little, this we have to,
Yep.
this is waste.
This is waste.
This will be waste right here.
Yeah.
I'm
Seems
realizing,
like that's the
a lot of
the
like
primary
primary
waste.
stuff. This is like a very interesting exercise, honestly. This meal is coming together real nicely. I've never
Seriously.
felt so not stressed preparing a meal that's theoretically supposed to be served on Thanksgiving. Oh my God. So hot. Woo! I burned my tongue.
Oh, no, don't do that.
Last time.
No.
So hot. Oh my God. Why would I do that? Every damn time. Yeah, you're unveiling.
Right.
Whoa. This looks amazing, honestly. Like
good.
I can't believe how quick that was. How did we do from a food waste perspective?
We did exceptional as far as I'm
I was
concerned.
not expecting this.
This is so minimal. This is what's left of compost. I fed my worms a little bit. We have some squash seeds, bell pepper seeds, some eggshells as calcium for plants, containers, 4 that are gonna get upcycled and repurposed. And then this is our trash, you guys.
When you said progress, not perfection, I was like, you know what, we're gonna fill that up.
Oh,
It's
this
gonna
is
be
our
okay.
trash. This is the waste we created from this meal.
Putting a little bit more thought can really minimize the amount of waste. Like we could have had a trash bag's worth of waste here. I feel like I learned a lot today.
Equally as reciprocated, I learned so much. And just really broadening our minds to taking baby step approaches and really turning this into a fun exercise during the holidays is something that can be special and really regenerative.
Sustainability doesn't have to be wrapped in like minimalist white packaging.
Nope, I hope everybody got that.
Well, I guess the only thing left to do is to eat.
Eat, yes. Favorite part of the day.
All right.
How
do we do?
This is so good.
Is it okay to just have no words? Producing a no waste meal doesn't mean producing a flavorless meal.
That's a Thanksgiving bumper sticker.
Most importantly, this is just delicious.
And it was bomb.
It was so good.